Frank was a startup that was founded by a woman named Charlie Javice. And the idea with Frank was that Frank would make it possible for you to fill out the FAFSA, which is the free application for federal student aid, in only 7 minutes. The FAFSA is the form that you fill out if you're going to college and you need to access federal student aid programs, so like student loans and Pell Grants and what have you. But the form is pretty long, right? People report that it's very difficult, it's very tricky, and it takes them a really long time. Frank stepped in and they said, we're going to use technological tools to make it really easy to fill out the FAFSA. So Frank started going around and saying that they were already helping millions of people, right? So the number they kept pointing to was 4.25 million people. One of the investors in Frank reaches out to someone that they know at JPMorgan Chase. And this investor said, hey, I know that you guys at Chase are trying to grow your position in the market with college-age people. They get the pitch. And in fact, JPMorgan basically offered them $175 million to buy the company. And so this lawsuit alleges that they actually had fewer than 300,000 users on the platform. So that's less than 5% of what they were saying that they actually had. So then Frank goes and finds this unnamed university professor who teaches data science. And they say, can you build us a list of, 4.25 million names, and can you give us, first name, last name, address, email, phone number, date of birth. So then JPMorgan is like, okay, cool. We bought this company. We want to get to work, emailing out to this big list of names that we got. But these emails are totally made up, like they are fake. But eventually JPMorgan says, listen, we're going to send an email to 400,000 of these names as like a sample. And only about a quarter of the emails get delivered, and fewer than 1% of the emails lead to someone clicking through, right? So clearly this is not the high quality data that Frank was promising. JPMorgan does an investigation because when they bought Frank, they took over Frank's email server. So JPMorgan was able to access all of the email traffic saying like, hey, can you make fraudulent emails for us? They literally use the phrase synthetic data. And so eventually, the CEO of Frank gets fired, the chief operating officer gets fired, and JPMorgan sues. And that's what brings us here. All of this is just allegations. The CEO of Frank has filed her own lawsuit saying basically JPMorgan has engineered a way to try to fire her for cause because they, in fact, kind of fumbled on capitalizing on this asset that they bought. She says, you mismanaged this company that I made, and now you're trying to blame me and you're trying to prevent me from getting all this money that I'm owed. All of this, again, is alleged, but I mean, the facts are looking bad if you're Frank, right? We can kind of casually, in a non-lawyerly way, agree that if you take these emails at face value, it is real hard to make the argument that, in fact, these founders and these executives at Frank are simply the victims of a vindictive plot by JPMorgan. And to speak to like the broader ecosystem, like the CEO of this company was really celebrated. Like she was like a Forbes 30 under 30 entrepreneur. Like people really thought that this was like a huge solution for people, and that like these tech entrepreneurs had figured out this problem of people struggling to navigate financial aid. The advice that we always give is that the whole idea of the FAFSA is that it's free, right? You should never have to pay someone to fill out the FAFSA for you. You might find it tricky, but I think for a lot of folks, once you dive into it, it's actually not that difficult. I would say just be careful out there. It's really tough. We have, endless reports from state agencies, from lawsuits, from government reports, from the GAO, and from our own work talking about how student loan servicers will regularly lie to people and mismanage their loans and give them bad information. And I think that is part of why you have, so many truly just predatory people who pop up to take advantage of that confusion. Like this all came out because JPMorgan was able to access the emails. And they were able to access the emails because they bought the company. These are not the only bad emails. And I think what we're about to do is spend about like a decade in litigation where discovery will lead to the emergence of thousands of pages of just horrible and extremely entertaining emails between fintech CEOs and crypto idiots, plotting schemes as dumb and brazen as the one that Frank is alleged to have done, and it's going to be a great decade, and I'm going to be tweeting right through it, baby. I'll be there to turn the lights off if they close the place.